All right, Romain Grosjean, it's great to have you on the Adrenaline Zone. We love if we can have a race car driver because there's plenty of risk associated with that. And we're just delighted to have you with us today. So appreciate you making the time for us. And we got a ton of questions for you. So I'm going to start it off by asking you what sparked your desire as a kid, I'm assuming, to be a race car driver. You grew up in France. What got you going into racing? Was there any particular advantage that you had growing up as a kid that prepared you for the track?
Yes and no. My grandfather was vice world champion of skiing, so I started skiing. And then I don't know, probably when I was 8, 10 years old, my dad asked me to stop skiing because he thought it was probably too dangerous, and there was some doping stories, and you know.
Yeah, skiing and race car. So let's go to race car driving instead of skiing. I got you.
I didn't go straight to race car. I did BMX for a bit. And then a few conclusions later, my mom asked me to find something else. So this is how I end up doing go-kart. And I had been doing go-kart for fun, but definitely that's where I started being, going racing. And that was 26 years ago that I
And this was
did my first race.
In France?
It was in France. I lived in Geneva, Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland. I'm Swiss and French. I'm known as a French athlete, but I grew up in Switzerland. But luckily, when I was about 8 years old, a racetrack opened about 15 minutes where we lived in France, but really near Geneva. So every Wednesday afternoon, every Saturday morning, I would go to the racetrack and drive go-kart, and ended up being the fastest kid there. And the people told us, well, you should try to go racing. And I guess that was a good advice.
So how did you get into F1 series racing? Is there some sort of progression? I mean, from go-karts to F1, it's a big, huge difference. And so there must be a progression for that.
Absolutely. They make it easier to understand nowadays. It's called F4, F3, F2, F1.
Okay.
Of course. Yes, sir.
Back in the days, it was a bit different. The names were different, but the character was the same. So I was French champion of Formula 4. I was European champion of Formula 3. I was Asian champion of Formula 2. And then I was leading the Formula 2 championship. And then I got called to go to Formula 1. So yeah, I won pretty much everything and up to Formula 1.
So did someone come to the go-kart track and discover you, or did you have to go out and seek different teams to interview with to get your first break into it?
No, my dad was my mechanic. He's probably the worst mechanic in the world. I love him to death, but it was disastrous. And then I was lucky that he was able to finance the early part of my career. And then I won a scholarship from Lista in Switzerland. And that was my first season in single seater. That's the only time I actually competed in the Swiss championship. I won 10 races out of 10 races. I had 10 pole position, 10 fastest lap. So got it all that year. And then the year after I went to Formula Renault French Championship. So that would be F4, right? And then I got into Renault driver development, where I was a Renault driver and made it to the way the Formula One was them.
So Romain, as you progress through, obviously it's a prove yourself progression from F4, 3, 2, 1. But I'm sure that along the way, there's an intellectual progression in your own mind that you're learning along the way. So take us through the steps and what you had to learn in order to handle a high performance racing machine. It's not a lot of little things probably, right?
Yeah, a lot of little things. I mean, you've been flying fast aircraft, very complicated aircraft, and we don't put you straight in F-14. You go in a Cessna 172, and then you go bigger and faster and so on and so forth, right? So it's kind of the same. The races are 25 minutes when you start, and slow cars, and then they go 45 minutes, and then they go an hour, and then the cars get faster. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to turn 40 this year. I wish I was 20 years old, but with the knowledge and experience that I have today.
No, I've said that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The life would be a lot simpler.
Yeah. So
all that hard-won experience. So did you have a natural hand-eye coordination, or did you have to develop your hand-eye coordination to get to the skill level to manage the kind of dynamics in those really fast cars?
I think that's kind of natural. I've played tennis since I'm a very young kid. I love tennis. So, that's really good for eye and hand coordination. Did it play a role? I have no idea. But I have a really good butt sensor.
Okay.
That's what, it's the same in an aircraft, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
I did my private pilot license back in 22 or 23. And the instructor was like, have you flown an aircraft before? I said, no, but it feels like a race car, just it moves around and I know what to do. So unusual attitude, they would try to put you anywhere and they're like, yeah, we're here and here and here. How do you know? Well, I just feel it, right? So I think that's what's very important in racing is how you feel things through your body and you realize what the vehicle you're in is doing.
I can really relate to that, Romain. I mean, in the F-14, when you're trying to land on an aircraft carrier, the instruments are giving you information, but they're always lagging just a little bit, like they probably are in a race car. And it's your butt that's really telling you, hey, I'm getting a little slow, I'm getting a little faster or whatever. And it is the butt that talks to you first. So I love, we used to literally say that. Your butt tells you what's going on. It's funny to hear somebody in a completely different discipline say the same thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Just curious, I don't, in the F1, do you have power steering and all that? I'm not sure, but you've raced IndyCar, which I don't think has power steering. But in terms of physical preparation, I mean, it's not just you step into the car and you're ready to go. There's some training you have to do to be ready to do these very difficult races, right?
Yes, absolutely. So Formula One and IndyCar have actually got two very different training. You mentioned it, Formula One has got a power steering wheel. If it fails, there's no way you're going to turn the wheel. There's so much downforce in those cars that you just can't physically turn the steering wheel. So it's all about your cores and your neck, right? Because you get so much G forces, 7G on braking, 5.5 when you turn in high-speed corners. I mean, 4.5. It's just being like in a washing machine. IndyCar is way slower on the corners, even though it's faster on the straight because we do ovals. So we have a very specific configuration for that. The cars are way slower. But there's no power steering wheel and the tracks are bumpy and difficult. So it's a lot more muscular targeted, more shoulders and grip strength and forearms. And rather than Formula One, you're a lot more into the cardiovascular, the neck and the core. So I've learned that. I've adapted my training. I'm a cyclist lover, so I cycle still a lot for the cardiovascular, but I've got to put quite a lot of gym in there.
We were just going to ask you a question about the difference between IndyCar and F1, and I think you just answered that question. Are there any other significant differences between those two venues?
Like a DC-3 and an Airbus 380. There's 30 years of technology of difference. IndyCar, everyone has the same car. The only thing you can change is the dampers. You can develop those. So they've got to an incredible level of grip on the dampers, but the cars are they don't need to be the highest of the technology because everyone is buying from the same suppliers. In Formula One, you change every year. You depend a lot of your car. The technology on those are absolutely outstanding. So I would say, in terms of cars, that's the difference. And then, of course, in IndyCar, you had the ovals that we're not used to have in Europe.